Before we start the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button so that you can receive everything new from us. In the first part of this movie, we learned about the planet Arax and why it is a planet very rich in a substance called spices and those who use it. The Emperor bought this entire universe to operate his spaceships, etc., and that's why the people of this planet are in turmoil. They extracted a large amount of spices from it for long periods of time, and of course these people of Al-Haram entered into many wars with the people of the planet, whose name was Al-Fermi, and also with the sandworms found in the desert that are present on this planet. But after they preferred the Herox to rule the planet for 80 years, he decided an emperor would depose them and appoint the Leto family in their place to rule the planet Arax and also extract the remaining spices. The planets, but the idea remains that after a lot of events, we learned that the emperor appointed Leto on the planet Arax in order to get rid of him because he knew how powerful he and his army were. Unfortunately, King Leto died at the hands of the Hercs, but Paul, the king's son, and his wife, Lady, decided that they would escape and went to the Femin tribe and allied themselves with them to escape. Of course, we also learned from the first part that Paul sees many dreams and gets burned. The dreams that Paul always had were a recurring dream of a girl from the Femin named Chani, and by the way, Paul reaches Chani at the end of the film when he reaches the tribes of the two films. Also, Paul and Lady's mother have magical powers, and of course Lady has this ability thanks to her upbringing with her group, but Paul acquired this ability from his mother. Lady, which I insisted on teaching him, is necessary for him to remain strong. Very well. The second part begins with Paul and his mother, Lady, and them. With the people of Al-Rumen, and currently in a group of the Herak army, they were looking for Al-Rumen, but they came across the Femin, and Paul complained. So White reached one of the soldiers, and he continued to fight with him with all his strength, and he finished with him, and I was alone in my opinion that the soldiers would hit Paul, but she would come to me, Paul's mother, and she would hit him with a brick, and she would continue to hit him to some extent. He dies, and Benar gets rid of him in general, and now they go to my son's urine. After what happened, all this happened with the Femin people to the place of the people. The two men are living there. As soon as they arrive, Steelguard is sitting, and he is a leader from the two films, as we saw before, and the one who also was with Lady and Paul from the first part. The important thing is that Steelguard is sitting with the senior archers and trying to convince them that they are living with Paul and Lady, and Steelguard is very confident that Paul will stay. He is loyal to their people, and for this reason he must live among them, and one day he will surely follow and save them himself from the turmoil, and others at that time are adults. The Femin agreed, but on the condition that Lady Paul remains the sacred mother of their people. Why? Because their sacred mother will die. Why, of course, she grew up with her group, all of whom are magicians, and she learned magic and other things from them and was able to play this role. At that time, Steelguard agrees, and he immediately goes to Lady and presents the matter to her, despite Lady is afraid that she agrees, because of course if she refuses to throw them, they will finish her and his son, but she will go to me. Paul, and she knows everything that happened. Paul agrees with what she said, and that the Holy Mother and God will remain for them, because there is no other solution, and in fact there is not much time left, and we will see Lady with the current Holy Lady, who remains a very, very old woman, and she will die, and currently the Holy Lady's helpers remain asking Lady to drink from. This is strange water, so I started to drink my hand from it, and my hand began to convulse in an incomprehensible way, but she passed again and did not die, but her eyes became swollen. The color blue is exactly like the Raman people, and this means that she passed the test and became one of the two films. Steelguard likes this very much, so he goes to each of his people, and the one who is currently sitting with Paul is Shani and others, and Steelguard, everyone knows that Lydia will become the new sacred mother of their people, and this means that Paul. Her son is the one who is loyal to him, and he must follow Wathat Shani, and many of the Femin people object to what Steelguard says because they are not believers. With these words, it is final, but Bon himself remains in your home with Steelguard, and they know that he is not truly the savior or anything, but rather a person who lost his father and all of his family and his family at the hands of the Hercs, and wants to fight with him and all the Femin in order to restore the rights of everyone who died. At that time, Steelguard respects Paul's words and they read one of them, and because Paul remains one of them, the first thing he should do is learn to live in the desert and learn the methods of the Femin very well and truly. Paul begins to learn from Shani, who learns everything, even the way to walk and hide in the desert. Paul will be very happy that he is learning all this, and one day he will become one of the Femin people, and he will also be happy because he is getting closer to Chani because it has been a very long time ago. He dreamed of her, but he loved her. After a while, he left school, and from all of this, we went to the captain of this cat captain. Of course, we saw him in the first part, and now the captain knows what happened to his soldiers the last time they went out for reconnaissance, and that means they all died at the hands of the Femen. So the captain is fanatical in an unnatural way, to the point that he keeps hitting his assistant without any reason, and he tells the captain that he will be used from the planet in good health, even if that is the case. This means that he will kill all the Archmen and occupy the entire planet for a year, and one day we will see a huge ship belonging to this cat emerge. The spices are from the ground, and there is a group of soldiers with them protecting it. They bring arrows to them, including Paul and Chani, and they continue to move with them. Bor continues to fight with the soldiers with all his strength and kills them with extreme courage. Paul, Chani, and the Femen bugs are also able to completely destroy this ship and return safely at night. Everyone sits and celebrates the achievement. The great thing they did today, and Steelguard continues to look at Paul and say that he is very brave because of what he announced today has proven, of course, that he has officially become one of the Femen, and of course this is also all talk that makes Paul very happy. On the other hand, we see that Rabban is going to meet Baron Kabul al-Harak, who he is. I mean, we said about him in the first part. His name is Vladimir Kana, so for the sake of the topic, it is more appropriate. We say about him throughout the movie, the Baron. The important thing is that they know that the Baron at this time is that he is a worker who fails and loses a lot against the soldiers of the Romans, and they also know that if he continues, he will lose. More than that, he will be removed from the leadership of the soldiers on the planet Rax once and for all, so a captain who has been forced to leave him agrees and leaves him, and he goes back to us. We see that Paul wakes up in a state of sleep, and there is something wrong with him, and she asks now that he has a dream about what. Well, Paul knows that it is a dream of someone like that. He does not know who it is, and he saw himself as having slept with him. In the dream, he also saw that there would be a huge war in which many people would die, so you know what that is. These dreams may not be real, and they may be the heretic spies who planted these dreams in his mind, nothing more than that, to make him afraid. So Paul repeats the situation, and he is not very reassured. I mean, after that, Steelguard comes for Paul, and they know that now is the time for his last test, and this test is in all nutshells like that. He will try to install one of the giant desert worms in order to prove then whether he is really a Vyman or not, and he will remain. Steelguard gives Paul a lot of advice, and he knows how he will be able to ride this worm and move around with it. After that, Burr begins to follow these tips, and now he has a device like this with him that he places on the ground, and this device in turn produces shocks on the ground like this, so I started summoning the worm, and here Paul starts trying to jump on it and ride on its back. The worm, after many difficult attempts, is actually able to pee on the worm's back and move. It's completely normal, and it makes Steelguard and all the two films happy, and they continue to support it very much, and Be'takor is really one of them, and one day he will be the savior. This news continues to reach the lady, or that is to say, the Holy Mother of the Femen, who is very, very happy about all this news and the report that she will move to the south, and this means for two reasons. The first reason is because she leaves Hankal because she is pregnant, as we know, and also because she calls on the people of the south to unite with her son Paul and fight against the Hurk and the entire empire, and in fact, after a few days we see that the Romans are preparing things for Lady so that she can move to the south, and Lady tries to invite Paul to come with her, but Paul refuses, and Paul does not see himself as loyal or anything, and therefore he does not want to go and make a union with the tribes in the south that was not built on his books. So Lady began to understand what he was saying and went on her own to the south. How many more days would pass after all this, and we would see a captain preparing a large army for Qatar to attack Al-Ramen and prove to the Baron that he deserves to stay here on planet Rax and lead the army. In fact, he takes the captain of his army and attacks Al-Ramen in a very strong battle, and they prefer Firmino with them, Paul. Of course, they fight Rabban with strength and ferocity, and he is able to defeat them so badly that Rabban himself would have died, but he can. He escapes at the last literal moment. This news continues to reach the Emperor and his daughter. He is very afraid of the Emperor because he now feels that the war is one day ahead of the next. He might attack the Hulk army at any moment. I am following him, and thus this is threatening the Emperor's throne. But the Emperor's daughter is approaching him now. He is abandoning the war and prefers to continue like this. In the end, he enters. He saves the situation and shows everyone that he is in danger. The appearance of the Savior and his throne becomes more and more secure as he betrays the Emperor. With these words, and they read, "My friend," we go to the planet Al-Har, and we see one of the pillars named Vid Rosser, and we learn that this Fet remains the nephew of the Baron and the brother of Raban, and currently Fet is engaged in a strong fight with a group of fighters, and he is able to defeat them all with ease, and it appears that he is very strong, and after this fight he sat down. The Baron is with Fed and informs him that he will make him the leader of the army on the planet Arax in place of his brother Robin. He is very happy. Fed, because he had been waiting for this position for a long time. After that, we see that Fed goes to his room, and in his room he finds a woman like this. Her name is Marger. Marger is from the group of witches that Lady was one of. The important thing is that Marguerite is currently the girl who passed the box test, and from this test she can be sure that fate is strong, and he could be the emperor or the savior, like Paul, and therefore Marger will now go to the leader of the witches group and she will know the whole leader. What happened was that the leader was exposed and they declared that they were controlling Fed until the emperor and their leader remained, and they would then be the ones who would burn him to implement their interests. And if Fed failed in this mission, then the girl in Marger's womb would be, by the way, Marger is pregnant from him. She is the one who will be loyal. After that, we will see that the Baron is blaming him for Fed, officially in front of everyone to say that the army is on the planet Arax, and of course they will be very happy about this mission. On the second day, we see that Paul and everyone are watching a group of smugglers who are coming to steal spices from the planet, and as soon as these smugglers land on the planet, of course, Paul and the rest of the Firmin attack them. The idea is that Paul finds among these smugglers someone who knows him very well, namely Greenie, his trainer and a guard. His personal father, whom we saw in the first part, of course, as soon as they see Paul, he stops everyone and Paul sits talking to Greenie and learns from him that he had nothing to do with the war that happened in the first part, and he was able to escape and get to know these smugglers and work with them until now he met Paul by chance. Of course, Paul very much welcomes Green and they read the Raman, but at night Green sits with Paul and keeps advising him to go to the south because the south has a very strong army called the Fundamentalists. Oh, it will certainly help, very, in his war against the Herc people and also the Emperor. But Paul rejects this talk because the desire that is, he saw that if he went to the south, many people would die, and he did not want that. So he sold Green the mug, and now in my hand is the urine, the seal that belonged to his father, so urine was smeared. And they also knew that Greenie knew the location of weapons here on the planet Arax that belonged to his father, and in fact, on the second day, he took Greenie Paul to the place where these weapons were, and he spread the urine. Very much because he will be able to strengthen his army before the expected war in the south at the same time. We see that Lady arrives there, and Lady goes to a temple like this belonging to the fundamentalists who live in the south. Lady talks to a nun like this in the temple and agrees with her that when Paul comes, they will do something like a test for him to make sure that he is really the savior who is in the prophecy. It is very awe-inspiring. On the other hand, we see Fido and his army arrive at Paul's and continue to destroy literally everything, and this leaves Paul. And everyone is forced to ride giant worms and crawl to the south, even though Paul did not want to do that because of the many dreams he had. As soon as Paul arrives in the south, he goes to the temple of the fundamentalists and you let the nun drink blue water, exactly as I did. And for your information, my friend, this blue water is considered a phrase. Regarding the poison of giant worms, the important thing is that in any case, he drinks the urine of this water, and this causes his death for a few minutes. And of course, it's my thing, you'll be crazy about him, but it means that Paul comes back to life again. And as soon as he comes back, we see that it's strange that, for example, his mother is coming to him now. So he was sold, because after he drank the water, he was able to see the future and saw that he must be the emperor, not just that he stops the cat army, and he fights with the Romans. No, he saw that his destiny was to remain the emperor of the universe, so Paul could carry out his plan. This brings together all the Romans and fundamentalists, and of course they all remained submissive to him after what happened and that he drank poison and did not match. The important thing is that Paul is currently talking to all of them and informing them that he will start a big war against the entire empire in order to reach power and become the emperor. Paul's words bother Chani a little because she feels that Paul, he started to change and wanted more power, but Paul didn't care and sent a decree now. To the emperor, this decree reaches the emperor, and whoever reads it is shocked because he did not even know that Paula lived and thought he died with his father, the rest of his people. But in every case, the emperor decided to go to this war and see Paul's challenge. And after that, he sees the emperor with Fed and the Baron, and he still has a corner. And now the emperor is shaking the Baron because he didn't know that Paul was still here. He is alive, and the blood of the Baron is the second one, because he also did not know all of this. At the moment, one of the soldiers of the emperor begins to beat the Baron as punishment for what he did. At this time, my friend Paul, the feminist army, and the fundamentalists begin to attack the place, and he can also reach the emperor and everyone else. The first thing is, what Paul does is that he kills the Baron while the rest of Paul's army continues to fight. The Herc army remained, and one of them was also Raban, who was fleeing now, but Granny was able to reach him and was killed as revenge for what he did in the first part, and his killing of all his people. The important thing is that the war, my friend, ends quickly because of the strength of Paul's army, which was really big and gigantic, and he stops Paul. He continues to talk to the emperor, knew that he was supposed to kill him because he killed his father, but he would not do that to him. So they knew the emperor that this was what happened. It had to happen because your father wasn't strong enough to be a leader of the people, and why did I choose him to come to the planet Arx from the beginning? It was a wrong choice. Of course, the emperor's words made Paul angry more, but he didn't care, and the emperor knew that he would not kill him, but would marry his daughter against his will, and he would be the new emperor of the entire universe. This shocks everyone present, including Chani, who loves Paul, but no one speaks, and Vate remains the one. He intervenes and asks Paul now to stage his duel to determine who will marry the emperor's daughter and the new emperor. So Paul very much agrees and begins to fight with Fed in a battle of the strongest possible, and Fed, by the way, is able to injure Paul more than he hurt him, but Paul listens to his strength and appreciates Fed and finally relieves him of him. But the night ends like this, and Paul makes the emperor kneel to him and kiss his hand as a sign that he has stayed. The new emperor, and they say from this moment on that he will destroy the entire universe to make all the young people sell him Cambra. He is actually taking everyone's urine and leaving from the planet Rax, except for Chani. She does not want to go and decide to continue on the planet here, and at this point the movie ends, my friend. Which of course will have a third part because we know the rest of the story, but unfortunately this part has not yet been published. It may be published next year after that. We do not know yet. But in general, I know that the quality of today's video was not the best, so stay tuned in the coming days for us to make a full duet in which we combine the last movie and this movie together, but with a much better quality than that, and that's it. Peace be upon you.